Hi, Julia.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. I'm very happy to invite Julia to talk to us about her experience at Stanford. Julia, so many people want to study an MBA. So let's just start from the prep part, the preparation part. How did you prepare for an MBA? I know that you were working at the same time at that time.
Yeah. Well, long story short, I do think it takes a lot of determination because it involves a lot of hours preparing for the GMAT and preparing for the essay. And so I think those are the biggest components, aside from the recommendation, which you're not writing. So those are the three big parts. Starting with the GMAT, I actually took quite a long time to prepare for it. I think I actually first took my exam 3 years ago, and I didn't really get a score that I loved. And so at that point, I wasn't completely set on going to business school. So I continued working at Google, studying a little bit on the side. And then after I moved to the San Bruno office, I had a little bit of more free time in the afternoons after work. So I used to study GMAT from, I want to say 8 p.m. through 11 p.m. every day for a month and a half, I think. And so it took me 2 tries to get the score I want. And so my recommendation for GMAT score would be to find out what your average score is for your target school and try to reach that number.
Do you read some certain reference books that you find super helpful? Or
I personally benefited the most from buying the practice exams off of the GMAT.com website because they have these mock exams that you can take online that are very similar to the level of difficulty of the real exam, or so I believe. And then for those questions, because a lot of people take them, so for the ones I didn't fully understand, I would just copy and paste the exact question into Google. And then in GMAT forums, there would be people who explain the right solutions, and so that was super helpful.
Got it. And other than GMAT prep, so now you get the ideal score, and what else would you need to prep for grad school?
Well, I think aside from the GMAT score, prep more importantly, there's your essay, right? And so each school has slightly different prompts for your essays because you're looking for different things. I only applied to 3 schools, so that kind of helped with the number of essays I had to write. But essentially, you want to look back at your professional career, and if you're newer to your work life than your college experiences, and really figure out what were the most impactful moments that you experienced. And I think the important key here is to really look at not just how well you did the job you were supposed to be doing, but how you went above and beyond the roles and responsibility of that role. Whether it's changing the way things are done, or bringing in a new initiative, whether it's diversity and inclusion, or women's or other things, experimenting with things, the way things are done in your organization.
Yeah.
And so once you identify those key impactful stories, I think it's about weaving them together in a coherent manner with your long-term goals.
Got it. Do you think that your experience and those big companies help you get the jobs? What I mean by that is that, do you think only big companies would impress the schools like Stanford, other big schools?
Right. So you're asking if big brand name companies would help you get an MBA? Yes and no, because if I look at my peers, yes, there are a lot of people from, the big consulting companies, the big tech companies, very prestigious finance firms. But at the same time, there are people who came from nonprofits or teaching or military, or, very small startups. And so I don't think there's one background that gives you an in. If you think about it, there are countless people at really great companies who weren't able to get in. And there are a lot of people with, not even very recognizable brand names for their work lives or their college degrees, but still got in because they were exceptional at the field they were in. So,
got it. If we talk about the proportion, the percentage, just to let people know in terms of, let's start from like gender-wise at Stanford MBA. What's the gender like in terms of like?
I think they do a really good job of keeping the gender ratio almost even, so almost 50-50. I think it's slightly more male, so maybe like 55 male and maybe 45 female. All of these statistics are available online, and so it might be worth taking a look if some of those ratios are important to you.
Got it. Okay. Then other than that, like in terms of the interview tip, is there any interview tips that you want to let us know? Or not really?
I would say the interviews weren't as intimidating as some people say they are. I really enjoyed my interviews. I think they were just fun conversations. Sure. I think it's an opportunity for you to really talk about your interests in the school and dive deeper into your achievements that you hadn't like explained in the essays or expressed in your resume. Having said that, I do think it's good to do a little research about the school so you can have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And so obviously there is a certain level of prep required, but I wouldn't be too scared about the interview.
Got it. And then like what have MBA changed you?
How has the MBA changed me? That's a really good question. I think it's starting to broaden my perspective in terms of how I approach my career. And so I think as I was applying to my MBA programs, I actually realized that I wanted a career pivot, but I think I wasn't really sure what path I wanted to pursue 100%. Like, for example, I knew that I wanted to get experience in a startup, but I wasn't really brave enough to take myself out of a big tech environment and like found a startup, for example. But here at Stanford, because so many classes are around like experiential learning, and so I'm in a class right now where we're like working to build a product from from grounds up. And so I think those opportunities really help me broaden like what opportunities I consider for my post MBA career. And so that's one change. I think the second change would be in terms of like just regular day-to-day conversations. I'm really energized by the perspectives that people bring, because I think, you and I were both at Google. I think being surrounded by people at big tech, it's a certain type of a person. Like they're all really smart, but it's like similar types of people.
Yeah.
And back when I was in consulting, it was also the same way, where it was like very intelligent people, really smart, really driven. But it's also, one type of society.
Yeah.
Whereas I think here, yes, all the people here are amazing and have done really cool things, but it's a wider array of experiences. And so I think that's really helped me, I guess, listen to different experiences and gain a broader perspective that I otherwise wouldn't have had access to.
So you mean like echo to what you were saying, like someone are from military, someone are from nonprofit, and you can learn from like different industries instead of just like restricted to consulting or tech world.
Exactly. And because like you don't have your day-to-day job, right? So you have your homework, but if you're interested in something, then we can literally go post in our Slack channel being like, hey, is there anyone who knows anything about this? Like insert any random subject area. And among our class of 430 people, or if you expand it to even the MBA twos, then like, almost like I guess 900, a little less, there is bound to be someone who knows something, or someone who knows someone who's an expert in that field. And so I think it really opens a lot of interesting conversations.
There are 450 people and
430 people in my class. Yeah.
And that's considered like a small size compared to other business schools, right?
Yes. So if I remember correctly, I do believe Stanford GSB is one of the smaller schools. I think other small schools include Berkeley and MIT, perhaps. I know, for example, Harvard is normally, it's almost 900 people, I want to say. And so it's significantly larger.
Got it. And when you were saying like you are building product from 0 to 1, what I'm interested to know is like what kinds of products do your team or other teams are building? Because when I was at business school, disclaimer, I was also at business school before. When I was at business school, like most of us were still like business grads or maybe like some arts grads. Not a lot of them are from like engineering background, maybe like 20%. So what I'm curious is in terms of the product that you're building, are they like mostly tech driven products or maybe there's something like other than tech things?
Yeah, I'm currently working on a website community. But this is not me building it. We're working with people who are getting their CS, PhD at Stanford and other master's program students across schools at Stanford. And so I think that's an advantage because at Stanford, there are so many students who are interested in founding startups. And then there are also these amazingly talented engineers at the school who are also interested in taking the same classes as you. And so my class is pretty generic in that it just has to be something that involves tech. But there's also a separate class for people who want to build something like tangible physical goods called product launch. And that's at the design school. And I think there's a different like climate focused one. And so there are a bunch of different experiential learning classes where you get to found something as a part of a class project. And I think there isn't really like a limitation on what subject area it has to be on.
So let's say you're building something related to tech, so they would just partner with the CS team, and then you can just find students there to help you build it, or they just study together with you, basically.
So we have to form a team and apply as a team. So there are pitch days where you go and like pitch your idea to other students who come in to listen. Because let's say you're an engineer, but you don't have like a cool business idea, but you'd really like to learn what it's like to build a startup quickly. Then you would want to join a business school student who has an idea perhaps, but doesn't have the technical skills to like, enable it. Yeah. And so I think my team was actually formed in a very similar manner where there was one business school student and she recruited an engineer who's actually an electronics engineering major. But anyhow, so she recruited an engineer and then I joined the team, another business school student joined the team, and then finally a CS PhD student joined the team. And so it's kind of an interesting recruitment process.
And is that like a startup project, kind of like a consulting project, but like a startup project? What I was saying is that in my business school before was that they would give us a consulting project. I think that's kind of like a internship for us in the end. So for that startup project, what is it about? Like, what is that?
Well, I think it's different from a consulting project because you're driving this project from start to finish. So no one is telling you what to do. It's your idea and your business and you're building it. Like DoorDash actually came out of the class that I'm taking right now. And so it does become real businesses. Whereas I think consulting projects, because it's not your business, and so you might end up with the deck as the deliverable, like a set of strategic recommendations, but you don't end up with the service that you can actually work with after the class. And so I think that's the distinction.
Oh, got it. Oh, that's very interesting. So
yeah, so it's kind of like being in an accelerator at school.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Then is this something like special in Stanford, or actually other schools also have similar like projects? Or because that's pretty cool.
I believe other schools also have similar programs. I actually spoke to a HBS student who's in a similar program there, and so I think a lot of business school students are interested in making startups these days.
Got it.
So the school programs are facilitating that.
Got it. Then for that startup thing that you're talking about, is it gonna have like an end time and then you're gonna move on to another project, or that's gonna last for 1 year and a half?
I think it really depends on the team's mindset. So if everyone on the team wants to pursue the project beyond the classroom, then they can certainly do so. Our team we haven't really decided yet on what we will do after the class is over, so I can't really say for me personally. But for example, I have a friend who did similar programs at the GSP, and after she graduated, she's still working on her startup. And then there are other people who approach it more as a class project. And so after the class is over, they're like, oh, well, this was a great learning experience, but it's time for me to like focus on other things and maybe get like a different internship.
Yeah, because what I expect is that at least from someone else's experiences, they're from working, what they would do is that they would do like internships in summer, and they seem to be doing that. And also in HBS, they seem to be doing that for a long time in the second year. So that's why I'm like curious about how they could continue the startup project.
Well, I think the people who continue the startup projects aren't doing those internships during the summer. They're working on their startups.
Got it. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. So what are your plans for the future? Like after studying for like half a year, do you have like any changing? You said you changed your mindset, right? You said that you broaden your perspective and you think of career not that restricted compared to like when you were before. So what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I would love to work for a startup, if not found my own thing. So I think that's like a brave new perspective that I didn't have before. Because I think when I came in, I thought that my immediate next steps would be to join an early stage company, but I would never say that I was going to found one myself. And so I think that's a difference. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. But if not, I would love to still get experience at a smaller company, because I mean, fingers crossed, right? And so I definitely think that working on something that's so young, and like I'm sure you'd understand more than I do because you're actually working on your own thing. It's very exciting, right? And so hopefully I'll get to taste more of that life.
It's very exciting, but at the same time, you're worried about the money all the time because you're basically bootstrapping your money right now.
Yeah, no, that's true. And so I think that's why it almost feels like doing a class project like this during the school year feels like a lower risk, because it's not like I'm making money anyways during the school year. And so, yeah, because right now I'm like, I had two engineers, and they're like super expensive. So I'm like spending money every day just to launch a product. But I think that's necessary. So I totally understand that I learned so much more just for 1 month working for my own startup. Yeah, exactly. At an early stage, I feel like it's a lot about like, how do you get shit done? Excuse my language.
And how do you find those product market fit so that you can make it 10x? You can
like quick iterations. Exactly.
Okay, one last question is in terms of the COVID thing. So what has COVID changed your school life? How has it changed your school life? And just in general, like how will COVID, because COVID right now, it has changed your life maybe for half a year in terms of school life, but it's getting better right now since you said like everyone is getting vaccinated. So how would you foresee things will happen in 2021?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's still a far ways until everyone gets vaccinated. I think it's only the med school students so far, unfortunately. Having said that, I think the biggest difference in my school year experience is that the classes are online. And so you lack the in-person class interactions that you may have with your classmates and the professors. I feel like I've only met my professors like twice total. And so that's a bit unfortunate because I think there are things that you can gain from building personal connections with them. As for your classmates, you don't see them in class, or you don't get to like randomly run into people at the dining hall or things like that. But we've been doing a lot of things like distant walks or like virtual social events or, other things to, I guess, still build connections. And so I think the social element is still pretty good. I've like, I don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm personally satisfied. But I think it's kind of the other connections like with professors or with other MBA 2s or with club membership, things that would have, I guess, benefited from offline interactions that are lacking at the present time.
But it will definitely become better like this year, right?
We're really hoping that by next fall that things will be better. But not really sure for this spring. Yep. And I guess to add, the biggest difference I think is a lot of the MBA experience is also about like seeing the world. And so because you have so many classmates from different countries, I do think that traditionally people visit a lot of countries during breaks and whatnot. And then each, student from that country can like host and show you around, and you get to understand what different users or customers in different countries like behave. And so we kind of like that experience, obviously, because we can't travel abroad.
Yeah, but I believe that like maybe in 2020, at least in 2022, you guys would have the chance.
Right? Sure. I'm really hoping so. Like before we graduate.
Yeah, for sure. You guys will have a grad trip, something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia, for your time, and I hope everyone can learn more out of this episode, and hope you guys like it. Thank you. Bye.
No problem. Bye.